Dear students, so today in this lecture, we'll be talking about CLAT and other law entrance exams for UG law courses. Specifically, in this particular video, we'll be discussing the English section that is being asked in all these examinations. Basically, the English section that is being asked in all the law entrance exams pan-India happens to be more or less the same with slight differences here and there. Today in this lecture, we'll not only be discussing CLAT, rather we'll be discussing other state level and university level examinations that are being conducted all across the country. Now, for the sake of convenience, I've divided these exams into 3 levels, though there is no set bifurcation like this, but for the ease of students, I've divided these exams into 3 categories. Number 1, national level law exams in India. Number 2, state level law exams in India. And number 3, college level or the university level law exams in India that are being conducted by specific colleges and universities. Now, moving on to national level law exams in India, they are CLAT, that is being conducted by Consortium of National Law Universities. Second, ILET, that is being conducted specifically for admission in NLU Delhi. However, there are other prestigious colleges as well that accepts ILET score. And the third is LSAT, which is being conducted by Pearson BUE. Now, these 3 broadly comes in the category of national level law exams in India. Moving on, state level law exams in India. Now, these are some of the common exams like Telangana Law Common Entrance Test, that is known as TG Law Set, Maharashtra CET Law, Andhra Pradesh Law Common Entrance Test, that is AP Law Set, and Kerala Law Entrance Examination, among many others. These are being conducted by specific states for entrance into their UG law admissions in various courses across the universities of that particular state. Now, the third one is university level law exams in India, out of which we have the first one and the most notable one, that is SLAT, Symbiosis Law Admission Test, which is basically done for the admission into 4 Symbiosis Law schools in the country. Then BITS Law Admission Test, that which is being conducted by Birla Institute of Technology and Science, BITS, as we all know. LFAT by the University of Allahabad. Rajasthan University Law Entrance Test, that is known as RULET, that is conducted by Rajasthan University. Then we have the one by Punjab University, that is known as PULLB Entrance Exam. We have BHU UAT Law, that is by the Banaras Hindu University. AMU Law Entrance Exam, that is by Aligarh Muslim University. And ICFI Law School Admission Test, that is known as ILSAT, that is into admission into ICFI University and the various branches of ICFI University spread across the country. So these are specifically the types of law exams in the country, that is national level, state level, and the university level. Now, let's dig deep into some of these examinations. First, CLAT. Now, CLAT, the UG CLAT focuses on evaluating the comprehension and reasoning skills and abilities of candidates. Overall, it is designed to be aptitude of skills that are necessary for legal education. Now, moving on, the eligibility. So the candidates who have passed in 10+2 or an equivalent examination with a minimum of 45% of marks or its equivalent in grade, or for candidates belonging to SC, ST or PWD categories, this percentage comes to 40% of the marks. So such students are eligible to appear in CLAT examination. Now, coming on to the exam scheme, maximum marks would be 120. The duration would be 2 hours, that is 120 minutes. The questions would be 120. That makes it 1 mark per question and roughly 1 minute per question. Now, there's a clause of negative marking in this particular examination. That is, for every wrong answer, 0.25 marks would be deducted. Now, the official website of CLAT, from where I've taken this data, the subject areas along with weightage is categorically given. Now, as far as the subject area is concerned, English language would comprise of 22 to 26 questions. Current affairs, including general knowledge, comprises of 28 to 32 questions. Logical reasoning comprises of 28 to 32 questions again. Logical reasoning would be of 22 to 26 questions, and quantitative techniques would be of 10 to 14 questions. Now, this will be the examination scheme. However, the exact number of questions would be known directly in the examination only, but this would be the proportion roughly as it was suggested in the website of CLAT. Current now, what colleges accept CLAT score? Now, as we all know that all the NLUs accept CLAT scores except NLU Delhi, which has its own examination. So NLU Delhi does not accept CLAT score. Other than that, all the NLUs and some other private universities and colleges like the Jindal Global Law School, UPES Dehradun, BITS Law School, Galgotia University, its School of Law, all these accept the score of means you can get admission into these institutes current on the basis of your CLAT score. Now, now let's talk about the English section that is being asked into these particular examinations. Let's start with CLAT. Now, in English section of UG CLAT 2025, you will be provided passages of about 450 words each. These passages will be derived from contemporary or historically significant fiction and non-fiction writing, and would be of a standard that a 12th standard student may be able to read in about 5 to 7 minutes. Each passage will be followed by a series of questions that will require you to demonstrate your comprehension and language skills, including your abilities to. Now, here, since we know that most of the questions will be coming as RC reading comprehension questions with multiple choices. So these are MCQs. With every question, you'll have 4 options, out of which 1 would be correct. Now, what are the things that they focus here? Now, the website actually tells us some basics about the reading and the comprehension part. For example, what will the passages be primarily focusing into? Read and comprehend the main point discussed in the passage. For example, every passage comes with a particular outline of ideas, a particular layout of ideas. So in that, once a student gives 5 to 7 minutes to read that particular passage, the subject matter might differ. It could be a fiction, it could be a non-fiction, it could be a history essay, it could be an economics essay, or from any topic, like they said. However, the basic idea would be to evaluate a few things. First, can you read and comprehend the main point discussed in the passage, as well as any other arguments and viewpoints discussed or set out in the passage? Or drawing inferences and conclusions based on passage, summarize the passage, compare and contrast the different arguments or viewpoints set out in the passage, and understanding the meaning of various words and phrases in the context that they are used in the passage. Now here, what becomes even more important would be the first part. For example, drawing inferences and conclusions. Now this becomes the most important part. How this becomes the most important part? Because it is only when you have a good practice of reading the passages, it's only when you have good comprehension skills will you be able to infer something meaningful out of the passage. You must know what are the inferences, you must know what are the conclusions. A person who reads aptly and who reads with a precision knows what inferences could be made out from the passage, okay? What could be logically inferred from the passage. And on the basis of that, what conclusions can be reached. So this all makes the English section fairly clear, and this entire information is given in the website of your official website of CLAT. So you can visit and you can read this all on your own. But this is what primarily is being given for English. Okay, to summarize the passage, do you have the skills to summarize the passage carefully? You know, there are certain things, there are certain principles we follow when we summarize the passage. The third part would be compare and contrast the different arguments or viewpoints set out in the passage. Are you able to do that? Because there are different analogies given in each and every passage, whether it's compare and contrast analogy or whether it's reason, first and then assertion. So Are you able to figure out all these different analogies, and are you able to figure out what different arguments and viewpoints are given in the passage? And the fourth point is understand the meaning of various words and phrases in the context that they are used in the passage. That are you able to figure out the meanings of various words and phrases? That is contextual vocabulary. See, in general, we all use various words in English language. That's not new to anyone. However, in the passage, a lot of words could be given where the meaning will intentionally be made unclear. Okay. Or the meaning would be ambiguous. Or perhaps you might not know the meaning of that word at all. The chances are high that you come across a word that you've never heard before and you don't know the meaning of that word at all. But are you able to contextually figure out the meaning of that word? Okay. The same goes with phrases. We have a lot of phrases named as phrasal verbs. Heard before. So are you able to figure out heard phrasal verb is used in which context and what could most probably be the meaning of that phrasal verb if it is used in a specific context in the passage? So all these things would be evaluated, as part of, questions that evaluate your heard before judgment of various words and phrases that are used. Okay. Now, moving forward, now let's talk about the next exam, that is IELTS. IELTS stands for the All India Law Entrance Test that is conducted for admission to various courses at National Law University, Delhi. It consists of 3 sections: English language, current affairs and general knowledge, and logical reasoning. Heard before. The eligibility for IELTS is that the candidates who have passed 10 plus 2 or an equivalent examination with a minimum of heard before 30% of their total points. Now, candidates belonging to SC or ST category must have a minimum of 45% in their 12th examination. So that remains the minimum eligibility criteria for IELTS exam. Heard before. As far as the exam scheme is concerned, it would be maximum marks would be 150. Duration would be 2 hours. That is 120 minutes. That is a little less than 1 minute for heard before. Heard before. The marks would be 150. That means, and questions would be 150. That simply means that 1 mark per question. Now, there is again a clause of negative marking in CLAT exam. Heard before. For every negative mark or for every wrong answer, 0.25 mark will be deducted. Heard before. There will be 3 sections in the examination: English, current affairs and general knowledge, and logical reasoning. Out of which, English, for English language, you will have 50 questions for 50 marks. Heard before. Current affairs and general knowledge, you'll have 30 questions for 30 marks. And for logical reasoning, that will be the biggest chunk, that will be the most heard before. Heard before pie, we can say, that will be 70 marks for 70 questions. Now, there's a specific disclaimer that is being given in the website of IELTS that says legal principles may be used in the logical reasoning section to test logical aptitude, but the examination will not require any kind of legal knowledge or technical understanding. Now, heard most of the UG level law entrance examination, prior legal knowledge will not be required because they know that you are merely 12th class students who are looking for entry into the field of law. Had it been PG level examinations, the entire scenario might be different. However, since these are UG level examinations, here and there, some legal maxims, some legal vocabularies could possibly be asked, but prior legal knowledge could not be required. Heard before. Now, which colleges accepts IELTS score? Exclusively NLU Delhi, for which it is meant. However, other than NLU Delhi, there are some other colleges and universities that have started accepting IELTS score. That is BITS Law School, Heard Birla Global University, School of Law, ASBM University, SRM University, Sonipat. These are some of the heard colleges and universities other than NLU Delhi where you can take your IELTS score and you can ask for the admission. They recognize IELTS and they accept their test score. Now, let's talk about the English section of IELTS examination. Heard before, there were 50 questions. Okay. For the last time, like what I'm doing right now is that I am evaluating the last IELTS paper for you, and on the basis of that, let's presume that it will be more or less the same this year around. However, no definite information is being given. Only the marks criteria is being given in the website. But let's evaluate what was there last time, which might give us a fair idea of what is going to come in the coming exams. Now, for the last time, there were 50 questions in total, spread across 7 paragraphs with 5, 6, 7, or 10 questions each. Now, this is to be noted that there was not uniformity in the number of questions that are being asked. So, for one particular passage, there were 5 questions. So, for the next one, there were 10. And in the coming one, there were 6. So, the next one would have 7. So, the number of questions were not uniform. Heard before. There was a massive variety in all the 7 paragraphs. So, that also takes us to one more observation that heard before. IELTS evaluates you on your exposure, or how broadly you have read. For example, if you are a commerce student, heard before was completed, the schooling as a student of commerce standard, you're most likely to understand passages related to your field, that is commerce and business or economics. However, if there's a passage of, say, science and technology, if there's a passage that talks about philosophy, specifically Western philosophy, or if there's a passage that talks about sociology, will you be able to understand the passage as well as you understand heard before subject passages? So these all things are at test, when you take an exam like IELTS, because they know that broadly students would be either from humanities field or from science field or from commerce background. That's why the kinds of paragraphs that were given, they were mixed. So we had a passage from sociology that talks about community dynamics, heard before structures and social relationships. There was another passage from arts that talks about artistic production, time management, and work habits. There was a passage from medical education technology, that talks about virtual reality in medical training. Moving on, there were passages from the field of psychology and sociology, primarily dealing with human motivation, self-worth, and the pursuit of external validation. Now, let me once again repeat, I am taking all these references from last year's paper. There were passages from sustainable development and economic empowerment. As you know, SDG goals, UN SDG goals are very, very prominently being pursued by various governments. Heard before these days. So sustainable development and economic empowerment with a special focus on gender inclusivity in emerging markets was one of the passages. Now, education, psychology, and mental health challenges faced by college students. Mental health is a big issue these days. Heard before. And then the last one was from linguistics. That was something dealing with modern linguistic theory and interdisciplinary applications. So this was the variety of heard before passages that were asked. Now, moving on to LSAT examination. Like I said in the beginning of the heard before lecture, that will be focusing on some of the heard before, some of the prominent exams in the field. So we'll be taking around 4 examinations like this, and we'll be giving you a broad idea on the scheme of these examinations and specifically English language that is asked. Now, heard before LSAT is being conducted by Pearson. Now, let's see something about the test. Developed specifically for use by law colleges in India, the LSAT India heard before for higher level reading, informal reasoning, and deductive reasoning skills. These required critical thinking skills are essential to succeed in both law college and in the practice of law. The LSAT India is conducted twice, heard in January and again in June, and it is administered online. Heard before. Eligibility for LSAT exam is candidates applying for the test are only required to appear for a class 12 exam or to have already cleared it. That's the bare minimum eligibility for LSAT. Heard before. The exam scheme is that there will be a maximum of 150 marks. Heard before. The questions would be 92. The duration would be around 140 minutes, or we can say 2 hours 20 minutes. One important thing to note is that in LSAT, we don't have negative marking. Heard before, negative marking is not there in LSAT examination. Heard before. Now, as far as the specific scheme of examination is concerned, so analytical reasoning will have 23 questions. That is to be done in 35 minutes. There will be two parts for logical reasoning. That is LR1, which will have 22 questions, and LR2, which will have 23 questions. Again, 35 minutes per head will be given for all of these. And then we'll have reading comprehension, for which we'll be having 24 questions. So we can see it this way, that analytical reasoning will have 23 questions, logical reasoning will have again 22, 23 questions in both the sections, and reading comprehension will have 24 questions. Now, there will be 35 minutes given for each section. The time is equal that is being given to each question. Heard before, 35 minutes will be given. Heard now, which colleges are there that accepts the score of LSAT? So there's a big list of institutions in India that accept the LSAT score. Okay. Now, India Associated Law Colleges is a group of institutions in India that accept the LSAT India scores for law school admissions. And some of them are Heard Bif Law School, Heard Bif University, Asian Law College Noida, IILM University, Heard Bif General Global Law School, Lloyd Law School, Manipal University Jaipur, Presidency University, RB University, Shiv Nadar School, and UPES Dehradun. So that's quite a long and comprehensive list. There are other colleges that are widely have started to recognize LSAT as well. Heard before. So we'll have a big list of colleges that do accept LSAT course. Now let's talk about heard before that is being asked in LSAT examination. Heard before. Now, a reading comprehension. Again, here also, primarily reading comprehension will be given, and accordingly, heard before. The aptitude of English will be evaluated. Heard before. Reading comprehension. These questions measure your ability to read with understanding and insight. Examples of lengthy and complex materials similar to those commonly encountered in law colleges. Heard this section will consist of 4 sections to assess the candidate's ability to read and comprehend written material. Each section consists of a passage followed by 5 to 8 questions. So like I said, no specific information was given on the website. Heard before, considering its reading comprehension questions. So the type of questions would be more or less the same. Heard before. Now moving on to CLAT examination. As you all know, that stands for the Syllabus Law Admission Test, and it opens doors to Syllabus Law Institutes across the country. It is a 1-hour computer-based test designed to test the skills needed to excel in legal education. Okay. Heard before. The eligibility for CLAT exam is then one must have passed standard 12 or equivalent examination from any recognized board with a minimum of 5% marks or equivalent grade. Heard before. 40% for scheduled caste, scheduled tribes. Heard before. In general, it is 45%. So that's the eligibility. Now let's talk about examination scheme. Heard before. Maximum marks. Heard before examination are 60 and duration is 1 hour. Now that makes it heard before. And the number of questions is also 60. So that makes it 1 minute for one question, which is of 1 marks. Again, thing to be noted here is that it does not have any negative marking. Now, one you must note here is that whatever we have discussed today, CLAT and ILET add negative marks, whereas exams like LSAT and CLAT does not have any negative marking. Heard before. Moving on, the exam scheme. Now we'll have 5 different sections here. Heard this would be of logical reasoning, for which we'll have 12 questions that are to be done in 12 minutes. That is 1 question per minute. Heard before. Legal reasoning, 12 questions, 12 minutes. Heard before. Analytical reasoning, 12 questions, 12 minutes. Reading comprehension, 12 questions, 12 minutes, and general knowledge, 12 questions in 12 minutes. So in all the 5 sections, you'll have 12 questions each, and for every question, you'll be roughly being given 1 minute. Heard before. Now, what are the colleges that accept SLAT score? Now, guys, there are again a lot of colleges that accepts that gives you admission on the basis of SLAT. Heard before. Since SLAT is an extensive examination, an exclusive examination for entrance into Symbiosis Law Schools. So we have 4 branches of Symbiosis Law Schools spread around the country. That is SLS Pune, Symbiosis Law School Noida, Symbiosis Law School Hyderabad, and Symbiosis Law School Nagpur. So all these 4 law schools, they give admission on the basis of SLAT. Heard before. Now, let's come to the English part. Heard before. Now, as it was given in the website, I've again evaluated the previous year paper of SLAT. Heard before. I've come up with some observations that might prove to be handy in the coming terms or to prepare for heard before coming SLAT examination. Now, in the previous year's SLAT exam, there were 4 passages given and they all were of moderate level. Okay, so they were neither too easy nor too tough. A balanced moderate level was maintained all through the exam, and the topics were last time varying in nature. So this is what we can heard before. Logically infer that even in the coming examinations, the topics would be varying in nature. And this is one thing all the students must keep in mind, that for most of these examinations where your aptitude is judged only on the basis of comprehension or only on the basis of reading comprehension passages, the topics would always be varying in nature. And this is what would make this entire section challenging. Heard because they all know that you have a specific set aptitude for commerce, for humanities, or for science. Heard before. Now, for a person of science to read and evaluate a passage from, say, 17th century drama would be quite challenging. Or say, on the contrary, for a person of science background, deciphering what is given in a passage that primarily deals with economics would be quite challenging. So, heard before. Since they know that the students who are appearing in these examinations would have varying backgrounds, a mixed level of nature when it comes to reading comprehension passages would make the level playing field for each and every candidate. So, for some students, they may relate well to one particular reading comprehension passage, but not to other. For others, it would be something else. So, a varying nature of reading comprehension passages is being given for this reason as well, because the students of humanities, commerce, and science would have a level playing field. Or passages from heard before science would make it easier for science students, but tougher for commerce and art students. All the passages from, say, business, economics, commerce would make it easier for commerce students, but not so easy for arts and science students. So, the topics would be varying in nature. Now, for the last time SLAT examination, what were the topics? Say, first was an essay, revenge is a kind of wild justice. Heard before. And then there was another passage that talks about national aspiration, that India would be a developed country by the year 2047. Heard before. These things, AI is one of the revolution, okay, in today's world. Heard before. So AI and human adaptability would be was there last time around, and we can expect some of the related topics that would come in the upcoming SLAT. One suggestion which I would like to give to all the students here is that please don't miss out on any of the relevant contemporary topics. For example, if currently there's a relevance of a topic, say, which says any new policy that our country has adopted, or say the US presidential elections and its impact on international peace, heard before. All these types of heard passages, all these types of paragraphs could be asked. So please be abreast of what's happening in India and abroad. This will also be helpful in the general knowledge part. Heard before. What were the questions? The questions were on comprehension, vocabulary, heard before, contextual questions, direct questions, author suggestion, understanding the meaning of phrases. So understanding the meaning of phrases and vocabulary primarily comes in the vocabulary part. Okay. Then we have questions on comprehension and author suggestion. Okay. That means how much can you figure out? Okay. How much can you infer after reading a particular passage? And then there will be contextual questions, direct questions. So in particular, the answer to these questions is being given heard before, directly in the passage here and there, heard before, that you must know. So these were broadly the types of questions and the topics that were prevalent in the English section of SLAT, and we'll expect some of the same patterns, if not entirely different, heard before, next SLAT exams to come. Heard before. Now, at the end of this particular lecture, let me give you some extra information. Heard before. Now, since you all know that NLUs and other law schools spread around the country are one of the most prominent organizations that are offering you UG courses in law. Heard before. However, certain other non-law institutions as well that have started giving integrated law program degrees, and there are primarily some other non-law institutions that have started offering UG courses in law. Now, generally, since these institutions are not very well known in the field of law, it becomes imperative that you don't pay any attention heard before these courses. However, these courses are equally good when it comes to the merit. These institutions are proved and they have a quality faculty, and they can also be one of the good options for you all to complete your UG education. Heard the first one in the series is IIM Rohtak, Indian Institute of Management, Rohtak. Heard before. IIM is in fact exclusively the first IIM to offer an IPL program, that is a 5-year integrated program in law. Heard before. This particular program is being affiliated and recognized by BCI, like all the law programs, Bar Council of India, all the law programs. Now, this is for your information, that are being run by different universities and colleges pertaining to law must be recognized by the Bar Council of India. If they are not recognized, that simply means they are not legal. Bar Council of India is a body that regulates legal education in the country. Now, since IIM Rohtak is primarily known for its management courses, it becomes imperative that people might not focus a lot on their IPL program. Heard but before. Then they have become the first such IIM to offer a 5-year integrated program in law. Now, what is the eligibility? For general, NC, OBC, and AWS category, minimum 60% in standard heard before, and standard 12 or equivalent examinations. Heard maximum before. 20 years on the age as on whenever the date comes. Heard and before. For SC, ST, PWP, DMP category candidates, it's minimum 55%. It's not 60%. And now, what are the qualifying exams? So, IIM Rohtak, for the sake of this examination, heard accept the scores of CLAT exam. Other than that, they have their own test, which is known as IAT, which is IPM Aptitude Test. So, this could also be one of the heard before, options for you. Okay. Though there are many options otherwise, like we have 26 NLUs, we have other many good institutions like Symbiosis, like BITS Law School, but this also happens to be a new but equally prestigious institute to offer UG courses, UG course, a 5-year IPL program in law. Other than that, we have other institutes like IIT Kharagpur. In IIT Kharagpur, we have Rajiv Gandhi School of Intellectual Property Law, and it gives LLB and LLM programs. Heard along with that, IIM Kolkata, which gives Executive Program in Business and Corporate Laws, okay, which is known as EPBCL. Heard before. Now, students, in today's lecture, we have heard before about CLAT, about the basic eligibility, about the examination, about the exam scheme, and the colleges that accepts the score of that CLAT examination. Along with that, we have also studied about other colleges and other university level and country level examination where one can appear in those examinations and make a specific career in those fields. In the lectures to come, we'll be specifically talking about the English section and what things you can do to make your English section better. We'll be practicing some of the reading comprehension passages and some of the other concepts that will help you prepare well for your examination. So thank you so very much for this particular lecture. I'll see you in the next lecture. Thank you.